Hi, this is Victor Adati with the Business Concierge with BusinessConsig.com. I want to start off by thanking everyone for tuning in today. Today's episode is brought to you by BusinessConsig.com, where you can get tips and advice on becoming a better business owner, and you can also sign up to receive a free copy of my new book, 5 Things You Need to Know Before Starting a Business. Last episode, we talked about negotiating. Let's quickly touch on some of the key points from episode 4. We talked about some things you should keep in mind when walking into a negotiation. First, negotiate your price early. Know your standard rates and fees. Just as clients are interviewing you, you should also be interviewing your clients. Beware of clients with unrealistic expectations, projects that don't line up with your company's direction, and clients that are just too difficult to deal with. Know the minimum you're willing to accept for your services. Don't discount your services to the point that you're operating at a loss. Under-promise and over-deliver. And finally, don't be scared to walk away. If you have a question you would like answered in an upcoming episode or a topic you'd like me to speak on, email me at businessconcierge@gmail.com. That brings us to today's topic, contracts. One aspect of business many business owners, including myself, hate dealing with is paperwork. A very important part of this paperwork is contracts. Contracts serve several purposes in business. The first is to identify the parties entering into the agreement. The second is to lay out the responsibilities of said parties included in the contract. And the third is to clearly state the previous and serve as a point of reference should any issues arise and legal actions need to be taken. I've had clients sign contracts and attempt to make up new terms on the fly, but I always direct them back to the contract. My favorite line is, "I understand that, Mr. Smith, but if you refer to your contract, it clearly states XYZ. I'm not sure if they don't fully read over the contract or if clients just don't care what's written in the contract, but there always seems to be some type of mishap. If there are misunderstandings when there are contracts in place, can you imagine the types of disagreements that can arise when there's no contract between the two parties? I hear about word-of-mouth contracts gone bad every day. I have a friend that works as an event planner, and she was talking to another event planner about an upcoming event her friend is organizing. This is a very popular company here in Dallas. Her friend had a verbal agreement with a particular venue for a Friday night event, and they even paid a deposit to hold the location for the night. So the promoter prints and distributes the flyers, pays for online promotion and e-blasts, and then a couple of days before the event, they get a call from the venue informing them that they accidentally double booked the location on their night. And unfortunately, the other company they booked for the night actually made their reservations first. They ended up having to cancel their event and do a lot of damage control to clean up that mess. So you think that they learned their lesson, right? No way. Their very next event, they book another venue, no contract. The verbal agreement this time is that they must meet a food and bar guarantee. Mind you, this time the venue they've booked is a huge chain across the U.S. They have locations in Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, Orlando, and New York, just to name a few, but still, no contract. Shame on you, big business. They have their event. It's another huge success, as most of their events in the area are. A great turnout, but at the end of the night, they fall just short of their bar guarantee by about $50. The contract they claimed they had was that if they fell short of the guarantee, they would simply have the difference deducted from the deposit and be returned the balance. In this case, a $500 deposit minus $50 leaves them a refund of $450. But guess what? The person they originally worked with for the venue was no longer working with the company. And the new rep informed them that the way they usually handle things is that if a promoter fell short of the guarantee by any amount, then they forfeit the entire deposit. So guess who kept the balance? That's right, the venue. So you think they learned this time after being burned twice, but nope, last I heard they still had no plans of signing any contracts, just continuing forward with verbal agreements. There are a few things you want to remember when creating a contract for your business. First, be clear. You don't want to be ambiguous. This is an early sign of bad contract drafting. The next thing you want to avoid is being vague. You've got to remember, should any legal issues arise as a disagreement over this contract, you could be called before a judge. One of the first things the judge is going to ask for is the contract you drafted and or signed. In court, for the most part, it's the plaintiff's word against the defendant's. The judge wasn't there to hear the negotiation or what was finally agreed upon. All the judge has to make his or her decision is your contract. If this contract is confusing or unclear to the judge, you face the possibility of losing your case. The next thing you want to make sure you do is be fair. A court can deny the enforceability of a contract if it is unfair. Therefore, avoid fine print or other language that the other party may not understand. Also, if one party has unequal power over the other, the contract has to show that there was some type of consideration given, like a payment or a promise that makes the transaction fair. Unconscionability, also known as unconscientious dealings, is a term used in contract law that describes a defense against the enforcement of a contract with terms that are excessively unfair to one party. Such a contract can be ruled unenforceable because the consideration offered is lacking or is so inadequate that to enforce the contract would be unfair to the party seeking to escape the contract. There are several scenarios where unconscionability is most frequently found. The first, where a party that normally engages in sophisticated business transactions inserts complicated jargon into a contract containing terms not likely to be understood by the average person. The second is where a seller grossly inflates the price of goods, particularly when they want to conceal the total cost for which the buyer is liable. The next thing you want to make sure you do is be accurate. Make sure to use terms that are specific to whoever you're entering into a contract with, and make sure they are exact terms. This also parallels with being clear. Include as much information as you can in your contracts and be specific with dates, hours work is to be performed, and the days the contract is valid for. Leave nothing to chance. Be very specific when it comes to responsibilities and expectations, because any gray area you leave in the contract is just asking for an issue to arise. Now, I'm no lawyer, so I must advise you to seek legal counsel for advice on any contract you're drafting or entering into. There are many standard contracts you can download online and tweak to fit your business needs by inserting your company name or a custom header. One way to cut down on the time and headache involved in drafting up a contract is to keep standard documents in a folder on your computer. I have a folder where I keep templates for my contracts, estimates, releases, and other various documents I have to use on a continual basis. I just open up the file, type in the applicable information, go to File, Save As, and choose a new file name for the document. When sending over documents to be signed, another good idea is to convert them into PDF files so they cannot be changed. If you send over a contract that's, say, in a Microsoft Word file, then anybody who opens it can go in and add, remove, or alter the contract. To save the file as a PDF document, depending on if you're running a Mac or a PC, you can either go to File, Save As, and select PDF, or File Print, and at the bottom of the print window, there's an option to print to PDF or save as a PDF file. If you'd like to see some of my sample contracts, you can send an email to businessconsigliere@gmail.com and put sample contracts in the subject line. The worst experience I had of a no contract situation was a few years back. I had an uncle come to me to work with a client of his. They were going to Trinidad to work on a TV show, and they wanted my production company to head up the production. When we met in the office, they agreed to pay for our travel and accommodation in addition to food and per diem, as well as reimburse us for any expenses we had while we were out of the country. So they paid for the round trip tickets, and when we got to Trinidad, the accommodations they had arranged for us were unacceptable, to say the least. So I rented a room on my own and paid for taxi service back and forth from the room to the shoot locations, keeping all of my receipts, of course, because they agreed to reimburse me for all my expenses as long as I provided them with the receipts. So to make a long story short, after I got back to the US and sent over the invoice, the client caught amnesia and thought we had volunteered to travel out of the country for 3 weeks, shoot and edit the TV episode for her, and we just wanted to donate our services. So now I'm stuck with a $3,800 invoice that nobody remembers that they agreed to pay. Let's recap for contracts. First, always sign a contract. Be clear. Don't be ambiguous or vague in your contracts. Next, be fair. A court can deny the enforceability of a contract if it's unfair. Be accurate. Include as much information as you can in your contract and be specific with dates, hours worked, and parties involved. If you have any doubts, seek professional legal counsel. Download and keep standard contracts and other forms on your computer for future use. And if you're emailing them, don't forget to send them as PDFs. Got any questions? Send them to businessconsigliere@gmail.com. And make sure you leave comments in the comment section below. I'm including links to our YouTube channel in the show notes. make sure you subscribe. And don't forget to visit businessconsig.com, where you can sign up to download a free copy of my new book, 5 Things You Need to Know Before Starting a Business. I'm Victor Adetiba, your business consigliere.